This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael. Hey, look, I've got to say, I've been going to the gym this week. I've got that swagger that you have when you've been to gym 2 or 3 times and you just sort of spend the rest of the day feeling really good about you. Don't look any different.
No, and the thing is that when you say 2 or 3 times, you're not saying 2 or 3 times a week. You have been 2 times, like in its entirety.
Yeah. No, but I'm feeling good. I've got the swagger.
You're not feeling sore? You're not feeling...
Oh, totally. I can't move. I mean, I'm doing this from my bed, but yeah.
Excellent. So you're a weakened opponent then, by the sounds of it. I'll take that. And so, of course, today we're looking for the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, and our favourite story. So a little bit different to our weekday shows. We never agree. I mean, the whole point of this is for it to be competitive, indeed. So we need an adjudicator to help decide the winner in each category. And this adjudicator couldn't even wait to be introduced before he started laughing and chuckling away in the background. Our Fear and Greed colleague, Adam Lang, good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
How are you feeling? Have you been to the gym as well? Are you primed and ready for this session?
No, I've walked a dog. Does that count?
It does not count, but thank you. Oh, actually, yes. Hang on. Considering you're about to sit in judgment of me, yes, I say that does count. You are a very fit, good-looking individual. So shall we jump into it?
Yes, please.
All right. Now, Sean, would you like to go first? The biggest story of the week.
For me, it was the economy. Now, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Philip Lowe, came out and suggested that the official cash rate is likely to double in coming months, and that means variable mortgage rates of close to 7% for plenty of us. It's a long way from the less than 3% people were paying at the beginning of the year. It was really big overseas too, none more so than the news that the European Central Bank has lifted interest rates for the first time. It joins the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, a lot of the developed nations as well, Brazil, Mexico. They've had huge increases in interest rates. The notable exception to developed economies lifting rates is Japan. It kept its on hold during the week. That's the scene. Why it's the biggest story of the week, though, is that financial markets suddenly reckon there are signs that inflation has peaked. And when that happens, we can start talking about interest rate relief. So all the news is rates are going up. How far will they go? Well, when inflation turns the corner, that's when we start thinking, they won't go further than that. And that seems to have happened this week. Wall Street had its best 3-day rally since May. The ASX was up. Bond yields came off a bit. Yep, rates are rising. But maybe this week we saw the end of the cycle. Big story. Michael.
Yeah, it certainly is. Look, for me, the biggest story is the biggest deal in banking in almost 15 years. So ANZ wants to buy Suncorp for $4.9 billion. There are plenty of regulatory hoops still to jump through. But what we know about it is this. ANZ hopes to raise about $3.5 billion from shareholders to fund the deal. If it does go ahead, it'll add about 1.2 million new customers to ANZ. The Suncorp brand would stick around for the next 5 years. Headquarters would stay in Brisbane. Branches would be open for at least 3 years. Why is it so important? Well, I know, Adam, that you love a good list. And so I have got 4 reasons why this is the biggest story of the week. Number 1, it would significantly increase the size of ANZ, making it a bigger player than NAB in household lending and deposits. Number 2, it's the biggest deal in the sector since CBA bought Bankwest and Westpac bought St. George in 2008. Number 3, it says something about ANZ that it ended talks to buy accounting software group MYOB to suddenly focus on the Suncorp acquisition. This is a company looking to do deals. And number 4, it would officially mark the end of the bank assurance era where financial services companies took on banking and insurance and wealth management, put it all together. 4 good reasons why this is the biggest story of the week. Adam.
I do love a good list, and that is a very big story in banking. But I think for the overall economy, both in Australia and internationally, that if inflation has indeed peaked and interest rates can stay at what is really a historic low level of 2.5%, we will have got through this in amazing shape. So I think Sean wins this one for the biggest story this week.
I think that's fair enough. It's very hard to beat the global economy as a story. Really?
Now, I reckon I beat it up a bit, though. I was actually going to go with you, Michael. That's in all seriousness.
But isn't that funny? That's often the way we end up, isn't it? That's a very, very kind of friendly competition.
That's right.
Still, I'm lying. It hurts a lot that I just lost that, but Anyway.
Well, Michael, how about you go first in terms of the most remarkable story of the week?
All right, bit of redemption here for me because any story with Elon Musk is a definite starter in this category. Twice this week now, we've had Tesla bigwigs talking up the lithium sector, right? So CEO Mr. Musk called on entrepreneurs to get into lithium processing and refining, saying that you can't lose. His quote was, "It's a license to print money." Of course he would say that. He needs lithium for Tesla batteries, but I just love the emotive language. I just love the fact that he just comes out and says this stuff. If we were to say that kind of thing, we'd be in all kinds of trouble. But he just goes ahead and says it. So I love the emotive language. So too did investors, it seems. Stocks in lithium companies jumped. We had the same thing, though, from Tesla chair Robin Denholm, who was a little bit more measured in the way she said it. She believes that Australia's greatest opportunity this century is to be a global leader in the battery supply chain. Australia is already the largest producer of lithium, mining about half the globe's output. And when you think about it being, as she described it, a once-in-a-century opportunity for the country, it puts Australia in a pretty incredible position to capitalise on the shift to a greener way of operating. Plus, I just love the fact that an Australian woman is at the very top of one of the most exciting, most watched companies in the world. Overall, remarkable.
Fair enough. Good entry. I'll give you mine. Bit of an old story, but I tell you what's happening with COVID at the moment is truly remarkable. Starting in the US, President Joe Biden tested positive for COVID-19 on Thursday evening Australian time. The fact that the US president, with all sorts of checks and balances, can test positive underscores the prevalence of COVID and the incredibly contagious nature of these current variants BA4 and BA5. The numbers are surging in Europe and will continue through summer into winter. We heard that this week. In China, where there are tight lockdowns, numbers continue to rise. This week came the news that every country in the world has now experienced COVID. The possible exception is North Korea, which still officially says it hasn't had COVID, though does admit it's had thousands of cases, so let's just park that one. Every country in the world has now experienced COVID. In Australia, the numbers are above 50,000 cases a day again. The number of deaths a day is heading towards 100. This has been going on for 2.5 years, and we're on the upslope, not the downslope. Remarkable.
Adam, adjudicate us. Is that what you say? Adjudicate us?
No, I don't know.
So please sit in judgment.
We want to be adjudicated.
Okay. Elon Musk, he is the great business spectator sport of our generation, I think. And I did love that. And I thought, Michael, excellent line that Robin Denholm was, quote, a little more measured than Elon Musk. Excellent line. I'm going to have to give this one to Sean. COVID's return is remarkable, I think, and that this thing keeps on mutating and getting us, and it's already at levels that we've surpassed levels that we've already had. So I think it is remarkable. For spectator sport, Michael, it was a great pick, but I'm sorry, Sean wins this one too.
That's fine. That's fine. Look.
Through gritted teeth.
Breathe through it, Michael. 2 to go.
I'll just make one little point on that, if I may.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No. Protest. We like this.
Okay. About 4 weeks ago, I said the sleeper story, because no one's talking about it, is how much these numbers are starting to rise for COVID. Then 2 weeks ago, Sean goes, COVID is now the biggest story of the week. I'm like, aha, I should have won sleeper story in that case. And now he's moved it on into the most remarkable story category, and he's still winning.
Next week, I'm going for my favourite story, COVID.
What on earth is going on here? The criteria keep moving, and I don't want to cast aspersions, but it feels a little bit like you two might be in cahoots. Just putting it out there.
My main man, Adam, not at all.
Oh, goodness. We'll be back in a moment with the sleeper story of the week. All right, Sean, now we're looking for the sleeper story of the week. So this is a story that's maybe not getting the attention that it currently deserves, or that's going to become a bigger story further down the track. What was it for you?
Well, this is a story which I actually think is a point in time which we'll look back on and think this changed the way we're doing things. It's the fact that the ACT government banned the sale of internal combustion engine new cars from 2035. This is a massive change. Think of all the petrol cars that will now become worth much, much less. Think about the infrastructure needs around charging stations. Think about the car sellers. Think about the car buyers. People will have to totally rethink their driving experience. And it's only 10 years away. It's a little over 10 years away, to be honest, but I'm just trying to build it up as a sleeper story. It didn't get a lot of attention. Basically, what happens, the balance of power in the ACT Parliament is held by Green, and hence this legislation went through. I think it's incredible that we're not talking more about one of the jurisdictions in Australia legislating to outlaw petrol cars by 2035. Incredible story. Michael.
I love the fact that I accuse Elon Musk of using very emotive language. And here you are pinpointing a point in time. And last week you picked out not one, not two, but I think three individual pivotal moments in last week. So you just really dial up the emotive language, and I love it.
Do you hang on to things a bit, Michael?
No, I take notes though. The notes hang on to it for me. And
Okay.
I'm turning into Adam, aren't I? Now, the sleeper story for me is actually really quite a serious one. For me, it's all about the pressure that Australia is under on the biosecurity front at the moment. There's a major outbreak of foot and mouth in Indonesia, and this week viral fragments were found in imported meat here in Australia. We don't have live disease here yet, but if it does get through, the impact on the cattle and broader livestock industry would be devastating, particularly on exports. One single live case is all it needs to trigger essentially a COVID-like response. There would be contact tracing, kind of lockdowns, border closures for the sector. Then, at the same time, we're dealing with the varroa mite outbreak in the bee population. The New South Wales Agriculture Minister this week said he's confident that the outbreak can be eradicated, but the complications from this go well beyond kind of honey to pollination for all kinds of crops, and the cost could be in the billions. So for me, it's just a reminder of the extraordinarily vital role of our biosecurity laws helping to keep things like varroa mite and foot and mouth out that really we don't tend to talk that much about or think that much about, but this is a battle that's constantly going on, particularly at the moment. Adam, what do you think?
Both are cracking sleeper stories, but Michael, you win this one, and I won't reveal the point score in its entirety yet, but you would get maximum points for this one. I think.
So can I just jump in here? Why is it a sleeper story? I have no problems. It's a big story, so no issues there. Why a sleeper story, given it's been the headlines all week?
Well, not for everyone. No, but really it hasn't.
Actually, I think this should almost be the biggest story of the week in many ways.
Well, I think your challenge has been lodged. It's being considered, and no, look at that, just got rejected.
Dismissed.
Yep.
There we go. Fair enough. Your favourite story, Michael?
My favourite story. Look, I mean, it's 2-1 going into the final category. And I have a bad feeling that I may have shot myself in the foot for my favourite story choice, because my favourite story has very little to do with business. In fact, it's got absolutely nothing to do with business at all. But hey,
can I just jump in here and say, I think you think that you're on our other podcast, Safe Word, which we sort of suggest is a business podcast, but really has nothing to do with business, as opposed to the Fear and Greed podcast, which is business based.
Well, I've done 3 out of 4 stories so far that are very, very businessy, and in fact, my last one contained 2 business stories in one. So I'm actually kind of 4 stories. I've bought myself a freebie here.
Okay.
My favourite story for the week is all about the discovery of a white whale carcass on a beach in Victoria last weekend, right?
Oh, no, that's business related.
So it led to a couple of days of rampant speculation over whether it was, in fact, Migaloo, the famous white whale that everyone's been watching going up and down the east coast of Australia for years. Turns out it wasn't. And everybody moved on remarkably quickly from the death of this whale. I actually then toyed with putting this under the sleeper story category because it showed what a big story the real death of Migaloo will be when that eventually happens at some point in the future. I'm talking it'll be kind of a national day of mourning. It seemed to be that significant. Anyway, the reason that the death of this particular white whale was my favorite story is because it reminds me of the best story of all time from more than 50 years ago. And we've talked about this before on Safe Word, in fact. A whale carcass washed up on a beach in Oregon, and a 23-year-old engineer decided to use half a ton of dynamite to blow it up when he needed a couple of kilograms. crushed a car half a kilometre away with flying bits of blubber. A news crew was on hand to capture it all, and all you have to do is search on Google for exploding whale and you'll find it. This is how much the town that where it happened has embraced this as part of their history. 2 years ago, the town renamed a park Exploding Whale Memorial Park. For me, it's just the story that keeps on giving, and any opportunity I can get to mention it, I will.
Wow. I just have nothing to say to that.
Yeah, is that a forfeit?
Yeah, I concede. There we go. For a business podcast, that is really quite incredible.
Well, last week I launched a campaign against barbecue sauce. It feels like I'm gradually shifting away from business content to my more natural home of irrelevant stuff.
Look, my favourite business story was the one about shrinkflation, which is the paring down of serving sizes going on in restaurants in the US to offset higher costs of food. Now, it's not abnormal for this to happen in inflationary environments, and obviously we have one of those at the moment. Inflation's on the rise, food prices are on the rise, so restaurants are serving smaller sizes, and it's called shrinkflation. What a fantastic name. Now, consumers are venting about it on the review website Yelp. That's the biggest food review website in the US. According to Bloomberg, the most complained about restaurants are those serving low-cost menu items. So you're getting smaller hot dogs, smaller burgers, smaller pizza slices, that type of thing. That is just a cracking story and an outcome of what's happening in the economy and slightly business-related. Adam.
Right. Michael, I'm sorry, I can't give this one to you. A dead whale just can't be my favourite story for the week.
What about an exploding whale?
That wasn't really this week.
I'm sorry, I don't know who Migaloo
50
is.
years ago.
Migaloo. Oh,
Sean.
wow. Okay, well, Migaloo is a white humpback whale, and every year or every couple of years it is sighted.
We look for Migaloo
as they do their annual migration up to the off the coast of Queensland.
I got to get out of financial markets, broaden my horizons.
That's right. And so, yeah, really, once again, I'm the man of the people, so I know who Migaloo is, just like last week when I was speaking about the Bunnings sausage sizzle. So,
and we thank you for it, Michael.
That's my job.
So, Sean wins today the shrinkflation story out of the USA restaurants. And Sean, as you mentioned during the week, there are some restaurants in the USA that probably could afford to shrink their meals just a little bit. But you win today. You won 3 of the 4 stories with 88 points out of 100. Michael, you took home 1 story today for 80 points out of 100.
Okay. No, that's all right. That's honourable. Well done, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
I really do think you deserve that win. I just didn't.
Did you hear the gritted teeth?
No. I completely concede that an exploding whale was never going to win, but I just wanted to get it in there, even if it meant that I was going to rule myself out. But anyway,
it was worth it.
That's right. Google it, exploding whale. All right. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
And thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Michael.
Make sure you're following the podcast and join us online on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson. Have a great weekend.